If you're a new parent, you know that sleep isn't just a luxury, it is the absolute ultimate currency. So in this explainer, we're going to look at a really fascinating science-backed and refreshingly simple approach to baby sleep that comes straight out of Scandinavia.
First things first, let's just acknowledge the reality here. Newborn sleep is a total marathon, not a sprint. Those endless nights can feel so isolating, but I promise you, if you are feeling completely exhausted right now, you are so not alone in this.
But what if I told you that a few simple changes could add an extra hour and a half of sleep to your night? Seriously, that's the promise of this Scandinavian method. It's a huge deal, and it's all backed by some surprisingly simple ideas.
And this question really gets to the core of it all. You know, so much of the talk around baby sleep is about rigid schedules and really complicated training methods. But this approach, it flips that whole idea on its head and asks, what if we just focus on simple, gentle shifts to the baby's world first?
This slide just lays it out so perfectly. On the one hand, you have what we typically think of as sleep training. You know, it can feel really rigid, super complex, and honestly pretty stressful for everyone. But the Scandinavian approach, over on the right, it's the total opposite. Simple, intuitive, and gentle. It's way less about training the baby and so much more about creating the perfect conditions for sleep to just happen naturally.
All right, so let's dive into our very first hack. It's all about cooling the room, a practice that the Scandinavians call lufting.
Lufting literally just means airing out a room. That's it. The whole goal is to deliberately lower the temperature because, as we're about to find out, a cooler environment is a really powerful, totally natural sleep cue for our bodies.
And here is the magic number, the sweet spot. The ideal temperature for a baby's room is between 18 and 22 degrees Celsius. That's roughly 64 to 72 Fahrenheit. Now, I know that might feel a little cool to us, but for a baby, it is the absolute perfect sleep environment.
And here's the brilliant science behind why it works. Our bodies are literally hardwired to associate a drop in our core temperature with sleep. That cooling process actually helps trigger the release of melatonin, the sleep hormone. So by creating a cool room, you're basically sending a powerful biological signal straight to your baby's brain that says, okay, it's time to rest now.
So, we've set the stage. The physical environment is perfect. Now, our second hack shifts the focus from the room to our own mindset as parents. This practice is called, "Is I'm a John."
I love this phrase. The literal translation is ice in the stomach, which is just such a perfect way to describe this. It's about developing this sense of calm resolve. It's the practice of taking a deep breath and just pausing before you immediately jump up at every little grunt and squeak your baby makes. So what does this actually look like in practice? Well, it's a really simple 4-step pause. You hear a stir, and your first instinct is probably to rush right in. Instead, just start a 60-second timer. Use that single minute to just observe. Babies are such noisy sleepers. They might just be shifting between sleep cycles. If, after that full minute, they're still clearly upset, that's when you go in. That tiny little gap gives them a chance to try and self-soothe, and it can make a world of difference.
Okay, so you've paused, you've waited your minute, and you've decided your baby does need some help. This brings us to our third and final hack, a gentle, physical soothing technique known as buffning. Buffning is all about recreating those comforting, rhythmic sensations of the womb. It's a firm, steady pat on your baby's back or their bottom. The idea is to tap into that deep, primal memory of safety and security, kind of mimicking the sound and feeling of a mother's heartbeat from inside the womb.
And getting the technique right is really important. So with your baby safely on their side or tummy, and this is key, always supervised when you do this, you use a cupped hand on their lower back or their diaper area. The rhythm needs to be firm and steady, like a heartbeat. Thump, 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 thump. The goal here is to be calming and almost hypnotic, not to be stimulating at all.
So there you have it. 3 simple but really powerful techniques that make up your new Scandinavian sleep toolkit. Let's do a quick recap of how they all fit together.
It all boils down to these 3 really simple actions. First, cool the air to set the perfect sleep stage. Second, wait a minute just to give your baby a chance to figure it out on their own. And third, pat the back with that rhythmic buffning when they do need your help. See how each step just builds on the last? It creates this really gentle and responsive approach.
And so, this is the question I want to leave you with. These aren't huge, overwhelming, life-altering changes. They are small, totally manageable adjustments. So, how might cooling the room, pausing for just a moment, and using a rhythmic touch completely transform your family's sleep, maybe even starting as soon as tonight? It's definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining me.